The observer's mistake. The collective had studied thousands of civilizations across their 50,000 years of existence. They prided themselves on their methodical approach to categorizing emerging species, their ability to predict technological advancement paths, and their perfect record of assessment, until they encountered humanity. Observer first sequence. Kenna adjusted her sensory apparatus as she drifted in her cloaked observation vessel above the Earth's thermosphere. Her species, like most members of the collective, had evolved beyond physical form millennia ago, existing as energy patterns within specialized containment vessels. This gave them the advantage of near immortality and unparalleled observational capabilities, or so they believed. Notable observation update. Kenna transmitted to the collective's central archive. Local solar rotation, 2024. The human species continues its peculiar development pattern. They possess fusion technology yet persist in using primitive combustion vehicles. They have achieved quantum entanglement communication, but maintain archaic satellite networks. Assessment. Technological progression highly inefficient. Recommendation. Continued observation without intervention. The response from Central Archive came swiftly. Assessment noted. Duration of observation. 15 local solar cycles. Sufficient data collected. Prepare final species categorization report. Kenna began compiling her report, cross-referencing thousands of observations across multiple domains. Humans were an anomaly in many ways. Their technological development didn't follow any of the collective's established patterns. They seemed to leap forward in some areas while deliberately maintaining outdated systems in others. Most puzzling was their apparent lack of unified direction. Unlike every other successful species the collective had encountered, humans hadn't formed a global government. They maintained separate nations, competing economic systems, and divergent cultural practices. By all known metrics, they should have destroyed themselves centuries ago. Yet they persisted, and more than that, they continued to advance. Final assessment. Kenna transmitted. Species classification. Category 3. Technological potential. Limited. Threat assessment. Minimal. Recommendation. Candidate for protective incorporation into the collective. As she completed her transmission, Kenna noticed something unusual in her sensor readings. A quantum fluctuation, barely detectable, emanating from a research facility in what humans call Switzerland. She adjusted her sensors, curious but unconcerned. The fluctuation disappeared as quickly as it had appeared. If Kenna had still possessed organic form, she might have felt a chill. Instead, she simply filed the observation as an anomaly and continued her final survey. It would be the most consequential oversight in the collective's history. Deep beneath the Swiss Alps, in a facility that officially didn't exist, Dr. Sarah Chen watched as the quantum processor achieved perfect coherence for the first time. Unlike traditional quantum computers that required near absolute zero temperatures, this one operated at room temperature. But that wasn't what made it revolutionary. System check complete, the AI assistant announced. Silent network integrity at 100%. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. 10 years of work, hundreds of failed attempts, and countless skeptics who said it couldn't be done. The sovereign intelligence linking Earth's neural technology, Silent, was finally online. Humanity's greatest achievement, and virtually undetectable to anyone looking for traditional technology signatures. Begin Phase 2, she instructed. Around the world, in similar facilities hidden beneath mountains, beneath oceans, and in orbital stations disguised as communication satellites, identical systems came online. Each one connected not through conventional quantum entanglement, but through what Sarah's team had dubbed consciousness space, a dimension of reality that only self-aware beings could access. In orbit, Kenna's sensors registered nothing unusual. The humans continued their seemingly chaotic existence, fighting wars over resources while simultaneously developing clean energy, racing to develop artificial intelligence while implementing strict regulations on its use, maintaining armies while advocating for peace. It all pointed to a species that couldn't decide on its own direction. The collective's central archive processed Kenna's final report, along with thousands of others from observers around Earth. Their consensus was clear. Humanity needed guidance. Their potential was obvious, but their development was dangerously unfocused. The collective had seen countless civilizations destroy themselves at this stage. Their doctrine was clear. Intervention was not just permitted, but required. Authorization granted. Central Archive transmitted across the collective's network. Begin preparation for protective incorporation of Species 2749 Earth. Standard protocols apply. Resistance is anticipated to be minimal based on observed technological capabilities. Kenna received the transmission with what might have been satisfaction had she still been capable of emotion. The humans would resist, of course. They always did. But in the end, they would understand that this was for their own good. The collective had never failed to successfully incorporate a species they had targeted. As she prepared to return to the collective's fleet staging area, Kenna performed one final sensor sweep of the planet. Everything appeared normal. Humans going about their lives, unaware that their destiny was about to change forever. Their primitive detection systems showed no sign of having noticed her presence. But in the quantum processor room deep beneath the Alps, Sarah Chen watched a different kind of display. The silent network had detected and mapped every observer around Earth, tracked their movements, and analyzed their capabilities. More importantly, it had done so without revealing its own existence. "They're leaving," Sarah noted, watching the observers' energy signatures fade. Just as predicted. Her colleague, Dr. James Wilson, nodded. "How long do you think we have?" Based on their observed patterns, 3 months at most before they return with their fleet. Sarah brought up a new display, showing the status of humanity's real defense network. Just enough time to finish the preparations they don't think we're making. The quantum processor hummed quietly in the background, its operation fundamentally different from anything the collective had encountered in their 50,000 years of existence. They had evolved beyond physical form, seeing it as the next step in evolution. In doing so, they had become blind to whole avenues of technological development. Humanity had taken a different path. Instead of abandoning their physical form, they had found a way to bridge the gap between consciousness and quantum mechanics. The silent network wasn't just a defense system. It was humanity's answer to questions the collective had never thought to ask. As Kenna's vessel disappeared into faster-than-light travel, Sarah sent a message through the silent network to every major government on Earth. It contained just 3 words. They took notice. The response came back unified, for perhaps the first time in human history. We are ready. The observer's mistake wasn't in underestimating humanity's technology. It was in assuming that humanity's apparent chaos was a sign of weakness rather than strength. The collective was about to learn that there's a vast difference between unity and uniformity, and that sometimes the most dangerous opponent is the one that appears harmless. In 3 months, they would return with their fleet, confident in their superior technology and their righteous mission to guide humanity's development. They would discover, too late, that humanity had been guiding its own development all along, not toward the collective's ideal of perfectly ordered evolution, but toward something far more interesting. The game was about to begin, and only one side knew the real rules. The warning signs. The collective's diplomatic vessel emerged from faster-than-light travel with what its occupants considered perfect precision, appearing exactly 1,000 kilometers above Earth's atmosphere. Its design was meant to inspire awe. A crystalline structure that seemed to bend light itself, creating patterns that most organic minds found mesmerizing. The collective had refined this approach over millennia, finding that a proper display of technological superiority often made actual conflict unnecessary. Ambassador Sequence Vena, who had once been Observer First Sequence Kenna, prepared for humanity's response to their arrival. The collective's databanks predicted a 98.7% chance of initial panic, followed by a hastily assembled military response that they would easily suppress. This pattern had played out countless times across the galaxy. The response they received instead was a politely worded invitation to land at a facility in Geneva. Curious, Venna transmitted to her fellow ambassadors. No detected elevation in their military alert status. No panic in their population centers. Their media networks are reporting our arrival with remarkable calm. Perhaps they have not yet comprehended our true nature, another ambassador suggested. No, Venna replied, accessing her observation memories. Something is different. During my surveillance period, I noted humanity's tendency toward excessive reaction to unexpected events. This response is too measured. In her command center beneath the Alps, Dr. Sarah Chen watched the crystalline vessel descend exactly as predicted. The silent network had mapped its quantum signature the moment it appeared, confirming what they had learned from studying the observer vessels. The collective's technology was impressive, but it was also fundamentally limited by its creator's evolutionary choices. They're scanning us, Dr. Wilson reported, monitoring the quantum interference patterns, looking for weapons installations, fleet movements, anything that matches their understanding of military preparation. Sarah nodded, and finding exactly what we want them to find. Are the delegations ready? All in position. Every major nation has their representatives in Geneva, even the ones that are supposedly at odds with each other. Wilson smiled slightly. The collective's going to love that little detail. The diplomatic reception was held in a grand hall that dated back to the 20th century. The collective's representatives, floating gracefully in their containment vessels, found themselves facing a surprisingly unified human delegation. Nations that their intelligence suggested were bitter rivals sat side by side, presenting a united front that contradicted everything in their observation reports. Ambassador Venna initiated the standard diplomatic protocol, projecting her thoughts directly into the minds of the assembled humans. We come with an offer of elevation. The collective has watched your development with great interest. We see your potential, but also the chaos that threatens to destroy you. We offer guidance, protection, and incorporation into our greater society. The human response came from Dr. Elena Rodriguez, chosen as humanity's chief diplomat for this encounter. We appreciate the collective's interest in Earth and humanity's development. However, we must decline your offer of incorporation. We prefer to continue our independent development. The response was so unexpected that Venna took 3.27 seconds to process it. An eternity for a being that operated at quantum speeds. No species had ever simply declined. They either accepted incorporation or resisted it, leading to inevitable military intervention. Perhaps we have not made ourselves clear, Venna projected, adding subtle harmonics designed to induce anxiety and compliance. The collective does not merely offer. We have determined that humanity requires guidance. Your development is dangerously unfocused. Your divisions make you vulnerable. We have seen countless civilizations destroy themselves at your stage of development. We prevent this through incorporation. Dr. Rodriguez's smile remained perfectly pleasant. We understand completely, Ambassador. However, what you see as dangerous unfocus, we see as valuable diversity. What you interpret as divisions, we recognize as strength through variety. We must insist on maintaining our independence. The other ambassadors began projecting agitation patterns. This was not proceeding according to any known protocol. Worse, their subtle attempts at psychological manipulation seemed to have no effect on the human delegates. You mistake our position. Venna projected more forcefully. This is not a negotiation. The collective has determined that humanity requires guidance. We prefer peaceful incorporation, but we are prepared to take more direct action if necessary. We understand this isn't a negotiation, Dr. Rodriguez replied calmly. We are simply informing you of reality. Humanity will not be incorporated into the collective. Not through diplomacy, and not through force. In that moment, Venna realized that the humans were not speaking from ignorance or arrogance. They were stating what they believed to be fact. More disturbing still, she could detect no fear in their responses, despite the clear threat she had delivered. You cannot hope to resist the collective, Vena projected. Our technological superiority is absolute. Our fleet stands ready. We have incorporated species far more advanced than humanity. Have you? Dr. Rodriguez asked quietly. Or have you simply incorporated species that developed along the same technological paths as the collective? Have you ever encountered a civilization that took a fundamentally different approach to advancement? The question struck Vena like a quantum disturbance. She accessed the collective's entire historical database in microseconds. Every species they had encountered had followed predictable technological progression paths. Those that deviated inevitably destroy themselves, or so the collective's records indicated. But had they ever encountered a species that successfully developed along a completely different vector? Your questions are irrelevant, Vena projected, but there was a new uncertainty in her transmission. You have 24 of your hours to reconsider your position. After that, the collective will take whatever action is necessary to ensure humanity's proper development. As the ambassadors departed, Dr. Rodriguez turned to Sarah Chen, who had been quietly observing from the back of the room. They really don't understand what they're dealing with, do they? No, Sarah replied, watching the quantum signatures of the departing vessels. They evolved beyond physical form so long ago that they've forgotten its advantages. They see our attachment to physical existence as primitive, never considering that we might have found ways to use it that they couldn't imagine. How long until their fleet arrives? Sarah checked the silent network's calculations. Based on their quantum wake signatures, the fleet is already waiting just outside our solar system. They'll begin their approach as soon as the ambassadors report our refusal. And we're ready. The silent network has mapped every quantum signature in their fleet. Their energy-based existence makes them incredibly powerful, but also predictable to systems designed to operate in consciousness space. Sarah paused, watching the final quantum traces of the diplomatic vessel fade. They think they're gods coming to guide primitives. They're about to learn they're actually ghosts trying to teach the living how to die. In orbit, Vena prepared her report to the collective's fleet command. For the first time in her existence, she added an uncertainty marker to her assessment. Something about humanity's response suggested they knew something the collective didn't, and in 50,000 years of incorporation, that had never happened before. The warning signs were there, but the collective was too convinced of its own superiority to read them correctly. In 24 hours, they would learn the cost of that mistake. The silent response. The collective's fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel in perfect formation, 5,000 ships arranged in a geometric pattern that would have been mathematically beautiful to any observer. Their arrival was meant to fill Earth's sensors with an overwhelming display of power. Instead, they were met with silence. Fleet Commander Sequence Rama, the highest-ranking military leader in the collective's incorporation force, surveyed the tactical display with growing unease. No defensive fleet rose to meet them. No weapons platforms activated. Even the primitive satellite networks they had observed seemed to be operating normally, showing no signs that humanity had even noticed their arrival. Status report, Rama transmitted to his command staff. No detected military response, his tactical officer replied. Planetary defense systems remain dormant. Orbital installations show no power signatures consistent with weapons. Ground-based military facilities maintaining standard activity levels. They must have some response planned. Rama transmitted. His tactical computer calculated a 99.99% probability that humanity would attempt some form of resistance. The complete lack of response violated all known patterns of civilization behavior. On Earth, in command centers hidden beneath mountains and oceans, humanity's leadership watched through the silent network as the collective positioned their fleet. Every quantum signature was mapped, every energy pattern analyzed, every potential capability assessed. They're proceeding exactly as the simulations predicted, Sarah Chen reported to the assembled world leaders. Their tactical doctrine hasn't evolved in 10,000 years. They've never needed it to. Begin Phase 3. Dr. Wilson asked, his hand hovering over the quantum interface. Sarah looked to the UN Secretary General, who nodded gravely. Begin Phase 3. In orbit, Rama prepared to transmit the collective's final warning to Earth. Their doctrine required one last chance for peaceful submission before military action began. He had delivered this message dozens of times in his existence. None had ever refused once they saw the full might of the collective's fleet. The transmission never left his ship. The first sign that something was wrong came from his quantum communications array. The perfectly ordered energy patterns that the collective used for faster-than-light communication simply stopped, not blocked, not interrupted, but ceased to exist, as if the underlying physics that made them possible had been locally suspended. Communication disruption detected. His tactical officer transmitted. Local communication still functioning within the fleet. Unable to establish contact with the collective's network. Local space appears to be. The transmission cut off as every ship in the fleet simultaneously lost internal communications. 5,000 vessels, each containing thousands of energy-based life forms, found themselves suddenly isolated, cut off from the quantum networks that had sustained their civilization for millennia. Impossible, Rama transmitted to his own crew, his energy pattern fluctuating with what might have been fear. No known technology can interfere with quantum-level communications across multiple dimensions. That's when they saw it, or rather, finally became aware of it. The silent network had been there all along, its quantum processors operating in consciousness space, a realm the collective had never thought to explore. While they had evolved beyond physical form, humanity had discovered how to bridge the gap between matter and consciousness itself. A transmission reached every ship in the fleet simultaneously, bypassing their quantum communications entirely. Dr. Elena Rodriguez's voice was calm and clear. This is your only warning. Your vessels are now isolated within individual quantum bubbles. Your weapons cannot function. Your faster-than-light capabilities are suspended. You have 1 hour to surrender. Rama's tactical computers went into cascade failure trying to analyze what was happening. Nothing in the collective's 50,000 years of technological development had prepared them for this. They had evolved beyond physical form, seeing it as the pinnacle of existence, never imagining that remaining partially bound to matter might offer possibilities they couldn't comprehend. Impossible, he transmitted again, but with less certainty. Our technology is superior in every way. We have mastered energy itself. No, came the reply, still in that calm voice. You abandoned matter for energy, thinking it was evolution. We learned to use both together, creating something new. Your fleet now exists within bubbles of altered quantum spacetime. You are, quite literally, out of phase with normal reality. Around the fleet, space itself seemed to shimmer as the silent network's quantum processors adjusted local physics with precise, surgical control. Ships that tried to fire their weapons found their energy weapons dissipating harmlessly as the quantum fields around them shifted. Attempts at faster-than-light travel failed as the very constants that made it possible were locally adjusted. This is not possible, Rama transmitted to his fleet. Stand firm. They cannot maintain such a violation of natural law. Sarah Chen's voice replaced Rodriguez. You're wrong about what's possible because you're wrong about what's natural. Consciousness isn't just an emergent property of complex systems. It's a fundamental force of the universe, as basic as gravity or electromagnetism. We didn't build better computers. We learned to use consciousness itself as a computational medium. Throughout the fleet, the collective's energy-based life forms began to experience something they hadn't felt in millennia: limitation. The quantum bubbles surrounding their ships weren't just containment fields. They were precisely tuned windows into a version of space-time where their form of existence was less efficient than matter. Your hour begins now, Rodriguez's voice returned. You can attempt to fight, but you should understand something. What you're experiencing isn't our weapon system. It's our defense grid. Our actual offensive capabilities have not yet been activated. In her command center, Sarah watched through the silent network as confusion and fear rippled through the collective's fleet. Their energy patterns showed signs of distress they probably didn't even know they could still feel. "They really don't understand what's happening, do they?" Dr. Wilson observed. "How could they?" Sarah replied. "They've spent 50,000 years believing that abandoning physical form was the path to ultimate power. They never considered that consciousness could be used to control reality itself, not just exist outside it." The next 59 minutes passed in tense silence. The collected ships remained frozen in space, their commanders desperately trying to understand how their perfect technology had been so completely neutralized. They had expected resistance, had prepared for every type of weapon their experience told them was possible. But humanity had developed something else entirely, not a weapon to destroy them, but a system that simply rewrote the rules they operated under. With 1 minute remaining in the hour, Rama transmitted to all ships, "Stand ready. They cannot maintain this effect forever. When it fails, we will show them the true power of the collective." The response came not in words but in action. Every quantum bubble surrounding the fleet shifted slightly, adjusting their internal physics. The collective's energy-based life forms felt themselves becoming even less efficient, their consciousness struggling to maintain coherence in space-time that increasingly favored matter over energy. "That was a demonstration." Rodriguez's voice came again. "The silent network can adjust local physics to the point where your form of existence becomes impossible. We would prefer not to do that. Despite what you may think, humanity does not desire the extinction of other species. Your hour is up. What is your response?" Rama, leader of the most powerful fleet the collective had ever assembled, faced a choice that no military commander in their 50,000-year history had ever had to make. In the end, it wasn't really a choice at all. "We surrender," he transmitted, his energy pattern fluctuating with what might have been shame, or perhaps the beginning of understanding. The silent response had ended the shortest war in human history, a war that history would record as having been won not through superior firepower, but through humanity's unique ability to see possibilities that others had overlooked in their rush to evolve beyond their origins. The game had ended before the collective even understood the rules. The nature of mercy. In the weeks following the collective's surrender, their fleet remained suspended in Earth's orbit, each ship enclosed in its quantum bubble. The energy beings that comprised the collective's forces found themselves experiencing something entirely new: powerlessness. For a civilization that had defined itself by its absolute control over energy and matter, this forced limitation was more than defeat. It was an existential crisis. Ambassador Vena, now serving as chief negotiator for the surrendered fleet, manifested her energy form in the same Geneva conference room where she had delivered her ultimatum just weeks before. The human delegation hadn't changed, but something about them had. Now that she knew what to look for, she could sense the quantum fluctuations around them, subtle manipulations of reality itself that her civilization had never thought possible. "You could have destroyed us," Vena projected, her thought patterns carrying undertones of confusion. "The silent network could have shifted quantum physics enough to make our form of existence impossible. Yet you chose not to. Why?" Dr. Elena Rodriguez smiled slightly. "Because that's not who we are. Humanity's strength isn't in our ability to destroy. It's in our ability to find alternatives to destruction." "But you had absolute power over us," Vena insisted. "In 50,000 years of incorporating other species, we have never shown such restraint when we held advantage." "That's the fundamental difference between our civilizations," Sarah Chen interjected, stepping forward. "You see power as something to be used. We see it as something to be understood. The silent network wasn't designed as a weapon. It was designed as a tool for understanding the relationship between consciousness and reality." In orbit, Fleet Commander Rama was having a similar conversation with Dr. James Wilson, who had been tasked with explaining exactly what had happened during the brief confrontation. They stood, or in Rama's case, floated in a quantum-shielded observation room aboard humanity's first official faster-than-light vessel, watching Earth rotate below them. Your civilization made a single fundamental assumption, Wilson explained, gesturing to a holographic display showing quantum field interactions. You believed that evolving beyond physical form was the ultimate expression of technological advancement. In doing so, you became blind to whole branches of possible development. We achieved perfect energy state, Rama projected defensively. We transcended the limitations of matter. No, Wilson corrected gently. You didn't transcend matter. You abandoned it. And in doing so, you lost the ability to understand how consciousness can interact with both energy and matter simultaneously. The silent network operates in what we call the consciousness space, the quantum foam where thought, energy, and matter intersect. Back in Geneva, Venna was struggling with an even more disturbing revelation. Our observations of Earth showed constant conflict, divided leadership, competing goals. How did you achieve this level of technological advancement without unity? Dr. Rodriguez's answer came with a hint of amusement. What you saw as division was actually our greatest strength. Diversity of thought, approach, and perspective led us to consider possibilities that a unified consciousness might miss. The silent network itself was born from the collaboration of quantum physicists, neuroscientists, and philosophers from dozens of different cultural and scientific traditions. But the chaos, Venna projected, her energy pattern fluctuating with confusion, was never chaos. Sarah completed the thought. It was complexity, evolution, growth. You saw our debates as conflicts, our diversity as division, our competition as weakness. You never understood that these were the very things driving our development in directions your civilization couldn't imagine. In the observation room, Rama was facing a similar paradigm shift. The quantum bubbles containing our fleet, they're not just force fields, are they? No, Wilson confirmed. They're localized adjustments to the fundamental constants of space-time. We're not containing you with energy or matter. We're temporarily rewriting the physics within each bubble. Your form of existence becomes slightly less efficient, slightly more costly in terms of energy. And you can maintain this indefinitely. The silent network doesn't maintain anything, Wilson explained. Once the local quantum states are adjusted, they're self-sustaining. It actually requires more energy to return them to normal than to leave them altered. This revelation sent ripples of disturbance through Rama's energy pattern. The implications were staggering. Humanity hadn't just defeated them. They had demonstrated mastery over the fundamental laws of reality itself. In Geneva, Venna was reaching a similar understanding. What happens now? Will you incorporate us into your civilization, as we plan to do to you? No, Dr. Rodriguez said firmly. That would make us no better than you. Instead, we're offering you a choice. The silent network has mapped the quantum signatures of every member of your fleet. We can restore you to normal space-time, allow you to return to the collective, but with a condition. Earth and its solar system will remain permanently off-limits to your civilization. Or, Venna projected, or you can stay, Sarah offered. Not as conquered subjects, but as students. We're willing to share our understanding of consciousness space to help you rediscover the possibilities you abandoned when you chose to evolve beyond physical form. The offer hung in the air like a quantum probability wave, not yet collapsed into reality. For beings who had spent millennia believing they were at the pinnacle of evolution, the choice was monumentally difficult. It meant admitting not just defeat, but fundamental error in their understanding of existence itself. How can you be so advanced, Venna projected quietly, yet still choose to remain bound to physical form? Because we understood something your civilization forgot, Rodriguez replied. True advancement isn't about transcending our nature. It's about understanding it completely. You chose to abandon matter for energy. We chose to learn how both interact with consciousness itself. Your path led to stagnation disguised as perfection. Ours leads to endless possibility. In orbit, Rama watched the quantum fields shimmer around his fleet, visible now that he knew what to look for. "Your mercy," he projected to Wilson, "is not what we expected." "That's because you misunderstand the nature of mercy," Wilson replied. "True mercy isn't about sparing those you can destroy. It's about helping those who have lost their way find a better path. The question is, are you willing to walk that path?" The choice the collective faced wasn't just about survival or surrender. It was about fundamental change, about admitting that 50,000 years of certainty had led them not to enlightenment but to a dead end. Humanity had shown them not just a different kind of technology, but a different way of existing in the universe itself. The time had come to choose a new understanding. The message that reached the collective's home systems was unlike any they had received in their 50,000 years of existence. It came not through their quantum networks, but through consciousness space itself, carried by the silent network in a way that made it impossible to ignore or misinterpret. The contents of that message would reshape the galaxy's oldest civilization. The collective's incorporation fleet has not been destroyed. The message began, transmitted simultaneously in every form of communication the collective could comprehend. They have, however, discovered something that challenges everything you believe about the nature of existence and advancement. In their vast networks of energy-based consciousness, the collective's leadership experienced something they hadn't felt since abandoning physical form: uncertainty. Their incorporation fleets had never failed. Their technology had never been superseded. Their understanding of the universe had never been questioned. Until now. In Earth orbit, Ambassador Vena and Fleet Commander Rama had made their choice. Along with nearly 30% of the collective's fleet, they had accepted humanity's offer to stay and learn. The rest had chosen to return home, but they would carry with them an understanding that would shake the collective to its foundations. "We chose wrong," Vena projected to the assembled human leadership, her energy pattern showing signs of what might have been excitement, an emotion the collective had thought long extinct in their kind. 50,000 years ago, when we decided that transcending physical form was the ultimate evolution, we chose wrong. Sarah Chen stood before a holographic display that showed the quantum signatures of those who had chosen to stay. Their energy patterns were already changing, showing the first signs of adaptation to work with consciousness space rather than simply existing in it. "The transition won't be easy," she warned them. "You'll need to learn to think in ways your civilization has forgotten. The relationship between consciousness, energy, and matter isn't hierarchical. It's symbiotic." "We understand," Rama projected, his own energy pattern showing new complexity. "We thought we had reached the peak of possible advancement. Now we realize we had merely plateaued in a comfortable valley, while true peaks remained hidden from our view." In the collective's home systems, the leadership faced a crisis unprecedented in their history. The returning fleet brought with them recordings of their encounter with humanity, the complete neutralization of their technology, the manipulation of local physics, and most shockingly, humanity's refusal to use that power for destruction. "Your civilization stands at a crossroads," the message from Earth continued. "You can continue on your current path, believing that abandoning physical form for pure energy is the ultimate evolution. If you choose this, we will respect your choice. Earth and its solar system will remain forbidden to you, protected by the silent network." Or, the pause in the message carried weight across light years of space. "Or you can choose to learn. To understand that consciousness is not merely a state of being, but a fundamental force of the universe itself. That the interaction between mind, energy, and matter holds possibilities your civilization has never imagined." Dr. Rodriguez stood before the United Nations, delivering her report on the first month of collaboration with those who had chosen to stay. "They're learning faster than we expected," she explained. "Their energy-based consciousness gives them unique insights into aspects of consciousness space we hadn't considered. The exchange of knowledge is already proving beneficial to both species." In orbit, the first joint human collective research facility was taking shape. It looked strange to both species, partly physical structure, partly energy construct. All of it suffused with quantum fields that bridged the gap between matter and consciousness. It was, in many ways, a physical representation of the path forward. We never understood the true nature of advancement. Vena projected during the facility's inauguration. We thought evolution meant leaving behind the primitive for the advanced. Humanity showed us that true evolution means understanding and integrating all aspects of existence. The silent network continued to expand, not as a weapon or a defense system, but as a tool for understanding the universe itself. Human consciousness, working in concert with the collective's energy-based intelligence, began to unlock secrets neither civilization could have discovered alone. Your offer of mercy, Rama projected to Wilson as they worked together on a particularly complex quantum equation, wasn't weakness as we first thought. It was wisdom we had forgotten was possible. Mercy without wisdom is just delayed conflict, Wilson replied. Wisdom without mercy is just sophisticated cruelty. Humanity learned long ago that the greatest achievements come when we balance both. In the depths of space, the collective's leadership reached their decision. It came not as a unified proclamation as it would have in the past, but as a complex tapestry of individual choices. Some chose to remain as they were, content in their current form of existence. Others chose to learn, to explore the possibilities humanity had revealed. The galaxy was changing. The collective's age of incorporation was ending, replaced by something new. An era of collaboration and discovery. Humanity had shown them not just a new technology, but a new way of thinking about existence itself. We thought we were gods, Vena projected during a particularly breakthrough moment in their research. In reality, we were like children who learned one impressive trick and thought it was all there was to learn. That's the thing about knowledge, Sarah replied, watching the quantum fields dance around them. The more you understand, the more you realize how much there is still to discover. The silent network continued its quiet work, maintaining the quantum barriers around Earth's solar system, while simultaneously serving as a bridge between species that had once seemed destined for conflict. It stood as a testament to humanity's greatest strength, not the ability to fight or destroy, but the wisdom to find a better way. In the end, the collective's attempt to incorporate humanity had led not to humanity's submission or the collective's destruction, but to something far more profound, the beginning of a genuine evolution in galactic civilization itself. They had come seeking to guide what they thought was a primitive species, only to find themselves being guided toward understanding they had never imagined possible. The universe, it seemed, still had much to teach even its oldest children. And humanity, the species that had refused to abandon its connection to the physical world, had become not the students the collective had intended, but the teachers they had never known they needed. The silent directive that had guided humanity's development was revealed at last, not to transcend their nature, but to understand it completely. Not to abandon their origins, but to build upon them. Not to achieve perfection, but to embrace the endless possibility of growth itself. The game had ended, but the real journey was just beginning.